Okay, hello. Um, we are going to talk a little bit about Septenary Gematria today, as well as the rainbow. Um, that's going to be the main topic for discussion, as well as there's going to be some Bible verses. So, prepare for that. And as always, we're going to be reading from the King James Version of the Holy Bible. Um, But before we begin with the video information, we're going to do a quick breath, which will essentially be a little bit more challenging. So, for those who don't understand the G breath, either go to www.immortal.ai or go back and watch my older videos if you want the lessons on how to do the G breath. But essentially, there's a couple things that I wanted to mention. So today we're going to be doing essentially a basic G breath, but the only difference is that when we get to the theta or the nose breath, we're going to do 5 in a row before completing it. So essentially, we're going to be going mouth, 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 nose, 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 mouth, and then mouth, mouth. So it's basically doing a regular G breath, but when we get to the nose, we're going to do 5 nose breaths. Another thing is uh, from here on out, whenever we do the guided meditations, I'm not going to say breathe in and then breathe out. I'm just going to say the breath codes themselves, which is mouth, 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 nose, etc. But just remember that for any breath code, whether it be mouth, 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 nose, 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 or nose, mouth, it's always, so for mouth, mouth, it would be in your mouth, out your mouth. It's always a in breath and then an out breath. We're going to begin the breath with a complete exhalation out of our mouth, but as soon as I say mouth, mouth, that begins it. So just remember that anytime I say a breath code, it's going to be in and then out. So if I say mouth, nose, it's going to go in your mouth, out your nose. If I say nose, mouth, it's going to go in your nose, out your mouth. So just be aware of that. So this is essentially like a super theta charged G breath. It's going to be a very powerful G breath that's going to relate to information and the way that your frontal lobe cognizes information, and it's going to be very helpful for this topic for today. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So first, remember, the more deeply you breathe and the more that you feel your breath and the more that you get in tune with it, the more powerful the effect is going to be. If you're only breathing shallow, or if you're not really, putting that much attention into your breath, it's not going to be as effective and you may not even really feel anything. So you have to make sure to try and breathe as deeply as possible. I'll try to keep a good rhythm to make sure that you can keep along, or it's not, that it's not too short or not too long, but just, go with me. But just make sure to pay attention to your breath and try to breathe as deeply and as rhythmically as possible. But also remember to stay paying attention to what I'm saying to guide you through it. So first we're going to begin with breathing all the air out of our lungs, out of our mouth. So exhale out your mouth. Mouth, mouth. Mouth, nose. Nose, nose. Nose, nose. Nose, nose. Nose, nose. Nose, nose. Nose, mouth. Mouth, mouth. Okay, so just let the energy settle for a moment. Let it stabilize. Let your brain come back into awareness of the self. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. So yeah, I drew a little bit of a graphic. So for those, as a refresher, or for those who don't know, this is septonary gematria. It's basically breaking up the alphabet into two sections of 13, going from A to M, and then N to Z. And then below that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that gives numerical values to each letter. If you want that for future reference, just pause the video where I had it, screenshot it, and then crop it. But if you want other sources for it, I can just comment below, and I'll send you sources of it so you can have a better quality image. But this is what we're going to be focusing on today. Okay, this is the rainbow wheel, but the rainbow in general. So, as a precursor, I want to say the rainbow system that we currently know about, which is the Roy G. Biv system, that's essentially like an altered version of the true model, which this color wheel that I just showed you is the true model of the 6 colors of the rainbow. The 7th stands apart. Okay, so the 7th is pure white light, it's clarity, it's black light, and it's gray light. It has 4 aspects, but it's the 7th and it stands apart, which is where the colors come from. So, but when it comes to the rainbow itself and these colors here, there are 6 of them. Because indigo is essentially just a darker shade of blue, and violet is sort of like a mixture of purplish, pinkish color. But the 6 colors, as you can see here, are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Okay? This is important. Why? Because within this system of 6, there is perfect symmetry. Okay, you have 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and you have 3 secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. Okay, so you have 3 and 3, 3 primary, 3 secondary. Another interesting thing is that between red and yellow, you get orange, between yellow and blue, you get green, and between blue and red, you get purple. So perfect balance, perfect symmetry. We're going to be looking at this color wheel. Essentially what I did was I took these 6 colors, their words, and I decoded them in septonary gematria. And the results that we got were purple equals 24, blue equals 15, green equals 23, yellow equals 17, orange equals 21, and red equals 14. So purple equals 24, blue equals 15, green equals 23, yellow equals 17, orange equals 21, red equals 14. And here I've essentially shortened them with the letters P, B, G, Y, O, and R. Okay. So one interesting thing that you'll notice is that the biggest numbers are the 3 secondary colors, and the 3 smallest numbers are the 3 primaries. Okay, it makes sense because the secondaries come second after by mixing these. So what you'll notice is that there is perfect symmetry here, not only with the separation of the secondary colors and the primary colors, but the differences between the numbers. So the difference between 14 and 15 is 1, the difference between 15 and 17 is 2, and then the difference between 17 and 21 is 4, and then 21 to 23 is 2, 23 to 24 is 1. So you have these differences here, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1. Perfect symmetry with their numerical values for their names. So what I did after this was I essentially grouped them up into pairs, all the different possible pairs. When it comes to making these pairs, it's a very simple process. So, and I didn't do doubles, so no purple, purple, no blue, blue, no green, green, etc. These are all basically, what you do is you start with purple, right? And there will be 5 different pairs for the other colors. So purple, blue, purple, green, purple, yellow, purple, orange, purple, red. Then you move on to blue, and since purple, blue is already established, you only need to do 4. So blue, green, blue, yellow, blue, orange, blue, red. And you continue the process on until what you get is 15 different color combinations. I'll bring up in a moment the ones with the double colors, but so you know, the purple, purple, blue, blue, green, green, etc. But basically what I did was I got the numerical values of making all of these combinations, and what you'll notice is this down here. So the first one would be blue-red, because those are the 2 smallest numbers, which together they sum 29. And then the next would be yellow-red, which is 31, and then so on and so forth. So what I did was I put all of the numerical combinations in order from least to greatest. And since there are 15 here, these are all 15. Now what you'll notice is that you have perfect mirror symmetry. Just like how you have them here, you have them here as well. So basically, if you look at the differences between each number, the difference between the first two, 29 and 31, is 2. And if you go to this end, the difference between 47 and 45 is 2. And then they both have a difference of 1, and then a difference of 3, and then 1, 1, 1. And the center 3 are all 38. There are 3 color combinations that sum to 38. Okay, and this is what's key. The 7th, the 8th, and the 9th number on this number line. All 3 are 38, and these 3 pairs are yellow-orange, purple-red, and blue-green. And one thing that you'll notice is that if you have this list here, which this could be done horizontally too, it doesn't matter, but the largest and the smallest are purple-red, and then green-blue, and yellow-orange, just like here. Now, the thing to notice is that if you were to add up all 6 colors, right, if you add all their numbers up, they sum to 114. And notice the 3 38s in the center. Okay? 38 times 3 is 114. So not only is the sum of all 6 colors 114, but the 3 center 38s sum to 114. Well, why is this key? Well, give me just a moment. Well, each one of these 6 colors resonates with the 6 brain waves that go to the chakras, right? And each one of these has a breath code that they correspond with. For instance, you have your 2 fusion breaths, which is purple and red, and then you have your 4 basic in between, right? So you have the gamma breath, or the G breath, you have the zeta breath, which is the backwards G breath, right, which is red, and then you have gamma, which is purple, and then you have mouth for beta, mouth nose for alpha, nose for theta, and then nose mouth for delta, or blue, green, yellow, and orange respectively. So these all together, along with the seventh, which is made up of the up, on, down, and off breath, going back to white, clear, or sorry, gray, white, clear, and black respectively, of the omega. That's the seventh is the omega chakra. It's the omega brainwave. It's the etc. etc. So if you look at the words zeta, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, omega in septonary gematria, this sums 114. So what we're getting here is that the 6 colors of the rainbow sums to 114, and all 7 chakra names, their brainwave names, sums to 114. So we have a clear, distinct connection between the brainwaves, the colors, the chakras, the breaths. Okay? So now what I want to talk about is a Bible verse, for instance. Luke 21:28. Okay, Luke 21:28. It says, "And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh." So it's telling us when things come to pass, look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Again, what it's telling you is to look up and see the rainbow, because you have to look up in order to see the rainbow when you're standing on the ground, of course, which is where we're most often standing. Your redemption draweth nigh, because your redemption is God's promise. And what is God's promise? It's the rainbow, right? The rainbow is God's promise and our redemption, because it's a reminder how everything in this universe is mathematically designed, how it's symmetrical, that there is an order to it. And this manifests in our 6 colors of our rainbow, and how that goes back to the breath and the brain waves. And it's here encoded in the Bible. Furthermore, of Luke 21:28, this verse in septonary gematria sums to 374. Why is this important? Think of the number 374 as 374, okay? We have 7 in the center, and then we have 3 and 4 on the sides. Well, going back to the Freemasonry and Gnosis and sacred mathematics, heaven, or the circle, was always represented by the number 3, and the earth, or the square, was always represented by the number 4. And together, the unity of heaven and earth gives us 7, right? So that is why it's God's number. Why it is one of the reasons why it's such a perfect number. So essentially what this verse is talking about is it's talking about the rainbow and the unity of heaven and earth, because the rainbow is the bridge that binds the two together. This is where you get the mythology of Bifrost, the rainbow bridge, right? It is the 6th solar seal, the white world bridger, because all 6 of these colors comes from pure white light. Okay? So note that it is Luke 21:28. Okay, we've established that the septonary value is 374. This is Luke 21:28. Well, why is this important? Because 21 is 3 times 7, and 28 is 4 times 7. Again, going back to the 374, 374. There's another way that it's being encoded. If you subtract 21 from 28, you get 7. If you add 28 and 21, you get 49, which is 7 times 7. In this verse, there are 22 words and 91 letters. 22 words and 91 letters. Well, why is this important? Well, 22 divided by 7 gives you pi, which is essentially what the rainbow is, symbolizing as well, because we usually see it in the semicircle arc, which the Earth acts as the diameter, giving us our holy ratio of pi. 91 letters because 91 is not only the triangulation of 13, which 7 is the centiger of 13, therefore 7 times 13 is 91. So again, it's encoding these things. 22 plus 91, for 22 words and 91 letters, 22 plus 91 is 113. A 113 is the 30th prime. Therefore, since it's a prime, its divisors are only 1 and itself. 1 plus 113 is 114. The sum of 113's divisors is 114. And if we look at the summation of this verse in Septenary Gematria, 374, and find its kin equivalent, essentially subtracting sets of 260 until we get to a number between 1 and 260, 374 minus 260 is 114. So not only is this verse encoding the rainbow, pi, the unification of heaven and earth multiple times, it's also encoding a Tzolk'in kin equivalent. And note that with the words red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, there are 30 letters. And 113 is the 30th prime. So this number, 114, the words 114 sums to 76. Why is 76 important? Because 38 times 3 is 114, but 38 times 2 is 76. So it's basically telling you the 2/3 of these 338s. 76 is the angle of the capstone of the Great Pyramid, or the missing capstone, what it would be. 76.3 degrees, and 38 times 2 is 76. So it's telling you about that second 38, the one in the middle, because if you have 38 and 38 and 38, that second 38, if you're going like this, if you're drawing the triangle, it's talking about the 2/3, which 2/3 of our decimal system is 66.6666. It's the number of the beast. It's the number of the heart, because the heart is in the center of the main 3 parts of the body. You have your brain, your heart, and your genitals, and that heart is the 2/3. It's the capstone. So, give me just one moment. Yeah, 114, as well as like in the way that they describe numbers in the Bible, like an 114 also equals 76. So not only does 114 equal 76, but also 114. Which, with the words 114, there are 3 words and 18 letters. 18 is the 18th solar seal is the white mirror. And this is what it's going to be going back to, because 38 is 12 mirror. Kin 38 is white crystal mirror, or 12 mirror. Whereas 18 is 5 mirror. But either way, 18, the number 18, as well as all the subsequent white mirrors on the Tzolk'in, are referencing the same thing. It's talking about the duality of things, the mirroring of things, which the rainbow is sort of like the binding of heaven and earth. It is sort of like the mirror in between the two. So just as a quick thing, healing telepathy with a breath sums to 114, just so you're aware. Going back to zeta, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, omega summing 114. That is 7 words and 33 letters. 7 chakras, 33 vertebrae in the spine. If you were to add the word "and" to both the 6 colors and the 7 brainwaves within septonary gematria, the word "and" sums 6. And is DNA backwards. Add the 6 to 114 and you get 120. Why is 120 important? Because 120 is the interior angle, is the one interior angle of a hexagon, as well as 2 interior angles of a triangle. So not only is this encoding the 114, but it's also encoding both the hexagon and the triangle, which the 6 colors of the rainbow, as well as the 6 corresponding brainwaves, all center around that 7th on the hexagon. The hexagon, the cube, etc., etc. You know, the seed of life, where it shows basically the 6 angles of a hexagon. Those are corresponding to the 6 chakras centered around that 7th point. This is what septonary is based off of. You have your 6 centered around the 7. So another interesting thing for the number 114 is that its numbers are 114, which sum to 6, as well as the word "and," A, N, and D. The numerical values for those 3 letters are A is 1, N is 1, D is 4, 114. Which, if you look at it backwards, DNA, that's 411. And 411 is sort of like a reference to information, because DNA is essentially information. Color, brainwave, all frequencies, all these things are information. So what's the 411? DNA. If you were to add the word, one second. Yeah, if you added the word "and" to the 7 chakras, so zeta, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, and omega, that sums to 120, remember? There are 8 words and 36 letters. So the 8 is going to come important, but 36 is the triangulation of 8. So if you add every number from 1 to 8, you get 36. 8 words, 36 letters. 36 is also 6 times 6. And I'll mention the 8 here in a moment. If you add the word "and" to the 6 colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, this sums to 120, as I've previously established. But that's 7 words and 33 letters, just like the 7 brainwaves without the word "and." Again, going back to the 7 and our 33 vertebrae. So let's look at the 114 is also saying zeta and gamma, the 2 fusions, and then the 4 breaths that they're made up of. Which this is connected to the number 141, because if you look at the chakras, as a person is standing, you have 1, then the 4 in the center, and then 1. So 141 is more specific, but 114 is also saying the same thing. So for the number 114, there are 8 divisors. Again, going back to this number 8, which we'll get into in a minute. These 8 divisors are 1, 2, 3, 6, 19, 38, 57, and 114. The sum of its proper divisors is 126, which is going back to the doubling of the cube. Because if you want to double the volume of the cube, you have to use the number 1.26. So 126 is connected to 1.26, or the doubling of the cube. And since we're dealing with number pairs, that's also a form of doubling of the cube, because the cube is made up of our 6 chakras, centered around the 7th. The sum of the divisors with the number 114, you get 240, which is the sum of 2 interior angles of a hexagon, which these are number pairs, or color pairs, sorry. So the number 8, I'll go ahead and mention it just in case I forget. The number 8, it's talking about our chakra system again. So if you look at the 3 pairs that sum to 38 in Septenary Gematria, you have yellow-orange, purple-red, and blue-green. Well, if you see the 6 chakras, along the column, right? Purple and red make this big circle when you connect them by a link, right? And then the other 2 pairs are these other 2 circles on the inside, making basically an 8 inside of a circle. And this is the infinity. This is the never-ending life force and flow that flows through our bodies. And when it ends in our body, it continues on in other bodies. That's why it's infinite. The rainbow is ultimately infinite, because every time you go from red all the way back around to purple, it becomes red again. So, just as I was mentioning with these 15 here, if you were to add the doubles, so for instance, purple, purple, blue, blue, green, green, yellow, yellow, orange, orange, and red, red, they would not mess up the symmetry. They would now be 21 color pairs, but the symmetry would stay the exact same. So the differences between the numbers would still stay mirrored, etc., etc. The only thing that I'll mention for this, as well as the 21 colors with the double pairs, is that there's also this mirroring. So the first 3 pairs are the 2 primary, the ones made up of 2 primary colors. And these 1-in-1s here are basically made up of a secondary and a primary. So then you have 3 1-in-1s. In the center, 3 38s are 1-in-1s. Then you have the last 3 1-in-1s, and then the very biggest numbers are each of the 2 secondary. If you were to add the double colors, right, they do not mess up that symmetry. It in fact keeps its perfect symmetry. It's just where they're placed. Like, for instance, let me find it real quick. Yeah, the first one would be double red, and then 2 primary, double blue, 2 primary, double yellow. The first 3 1-in-1s, the center 3 1-in-1s, the last 3 1-in-1s, and then double orange, 2 secondary, double green, 2 secondary, double purple. Okay, so it keeps that perfect mirror symmetry. Okay, just with 21 now, because you're adding the 6 double pairs. But for the set of 15 without the double pairs, the 3 center numbers, along the number line are the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. Because if you have a number line of 15, 8 is its centiger. This actually goes back to pool or billiards, and why the 8 ball is the center ball, because 8 is the centiger of 15, and you have 15 balls when you play billiards. So 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 9 is 24. And I'll come back to this in a minute. But essentially 24 is 2 plus 4, that's 6. And 24 mirrored is 42. And 42 is the angle at which from where you're standing, if where the anti-solar point is and where the sun is in the sky, it creates this angle, which is what generates the rainbow, right? Um, but since it's an optical illusion of your eye, when you go chasing the rainbow, it'll always stay ahead of you until you get past the point where the limitation of where the rainbow is being generated. Then you'll go like, then it'll stop, and then when you go to the other side, it'll recreate itself, but on the other side. So it's essentially an optical illusion, and it's created with the water, the light, the angle at which the sun is, and where you're standing, etc. So seeing rainbows is kind of rare. But from the anti-solar point, if you make the angle from where you're standing, where the anti-solar point is, if you look up, and I may not be getting this completely right, but it's not the point. From where you're standing, the angle at which the rainbow will appear is from 40 to 42 degrees. So the whole thing of 42, which is 6 times 7, by the way, as well as 3 times 14, and 3 and 14 going back to pi, as well as the 42 generations from Adam to Christ, or the 42 generations of the Bible. What is it? Adam to David, David to Babylon, Babylon to Christ. There are 3 sets of 14 generations, which 3 times 14 is 42. But also in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the answer to life and everything in the universe and the meaning of life is 42. This is all going back to the rainbow, which is God's promise, which is his divine mathematical structure, right? So, yeah, so 7 plus 8 plus 9 is 24, and 24 is 2 plus 4, that's 6, and 24 backwards is 42. If you were to look at all 21 colors, right, with the center 3, it's 10, 11, and 12, because the center of 21 is 11. Therefore, the 338s are still in the center, by the way, and that's 10, 11, 12. 10 plus 11 plus 12 is 33. And what's interesting is that if you were to look at all 65 harmonics of the Tzolk'in, right? Again, harmonics are 4-day sequences. 4 times 65 is 260. If you were to list out the number 66 from 1 to 66 on a number line to find the mirrors of the harmonics, so the first harmonic mirrors the 65th, right? The very first and the very last. And then you go forwards with the first and you go backwards with the last, and they eventually meet in the center. And the very center harmonic is harmonic 33, aka the mystic void. It is the harmonic that stands apart from the other 64. And 64, as I've mentioned before, goes into a whole lot of things. But if you were to add the sum of every mirror, harmonic mirror in the Tzolk'in, all of them will sum to 66. 66 going back to our hands, the chapters of the books in the Bible, again, etc., etc. However, there are 7 different, what is it? Yeah, there are 7 different harmonics that create these sort of mirrors, right? So harmonic 6, its mirror is harmonic 60. Harmonic 15 is mirror, and these are occult partners, by the way, as well. The 15th harmonic's mirror is 51, and then 24 and 42, which I actually am the very last kin of harmonic 24, and its mirror is 42, and the first of that is Red Solar Serpent, which is my occult kin. And then the very center 33, those are occult mirrors. So 6 plus 60 is 66. All of them do this, by the way, but these are perfect mirrors. So 6 and 60, or 06, 60, and then 15, 51, 24, 42, and then 33 and 33. So that's another thing that the 33 is pointing back to, as well as our vertebrae in our spine, and the fact that Jesus Christ lived for 33 years, performed 33 miracles, etc., etc. So let me look for the next thing that I want to look at. Yeah, so all of these things are related back to the rainbow, our chakras, frequency, breath, and brain waves. Perfect symmetry across the board in multiple ways. These decoding these 6 colors within Septonary Gematria is encoded in the very Bible itself. The biblical writers are essentially telling us that this is valid. This is important, okay? And it's even connected to the brain waves that Core Love has taught us, right? So Septonary Gematria that Marty Leeds has shown us, the 6 colors of the rainbow, and the brain waves that Core Love has showed us, these things are intricately connected and they're encoded in the Bible. So I want to show y'all more. So, yeah, let's look at some more before we get into sort of like nitty-gritty details. So, one thing I want to mention is that if you were to take this system of 15, right? Sorry. If you were to take this system of 15, right? And you add up all these numbers on this side, so the first 6, and then we have 3 times 38, which is 114, right? And then if you add up all these 6 numbers, right? This one, these 6 sum to 200, these 6 sum to 256, and then you have 114 for the center. Okay? So, if you were to add the first 6, right? And the last 6, you get the number 456. Okay? And if you add that 114 to it, it sums to 570. Okay, so what's interesting is that the auxiliary 12, which sums to 456, is 114 times 4. If you add that center 114 to 456, you get 570, which is 114 times 5, naturally, right? So let's look at this number 456. So in Septonary Gematria, the words 456 sums to 90. And why is this important? Because all 6 colors, and I'll talk about this one day, I should have actually drawn this on the graph, all 6 colors of the rainbow can be mapped within the 90-degree angle per 15 degrees, or each color corresponds with each 15 degrees, right? So 1 to 15 is red, 16 to 30 is orange, 31 to 45 is yellow, 46 to 60 is green, 61 to 75 is blue, and 76 to 90 is purple, okay? Now, the words 456 sums to 90, which brings us back to that connection with the right angle and how the 6 colors fit within that right angle. The vertical line, right, that's corresponding with the 90 degrees, which is gamma. It's pure gamma energy. The horizontal line of the 90-degree angle is the 0 line, which resonates with zeta, right? So, yes, the words 456 sums to 90, which is 4 words and 19 letters. The word 4 in septonary sums to 19. Okay, so there's this interesting key here. The word 4 sums to 19. And this 456 has 4 words, 19 letters. 4 times 19 is 76. So not only is it going back to the angle of the capstone of the Great Pyramid of Giza, 76.3, but it's also going back to all those other 76s I mentioned. But if you look on the 90-degree angle, the number 76 begins the gamma frequency. 76 to 90 of the 90-degree angle, and each 15 degrees corresponds to the color. 76 begins the gamma frequency, which is the purple chakra, that is your mind's eye. And what is the angle on the Great Pyramid of Giza? 76. So that eye, the all-seeing eye of God, the eye of providence, is our pineal gland. Okay? Which, remember, 38 times 2 is 76. So a lot of these things are going, which when you list out all 15 or 21 colors and you have the 338s in the center, how do you place them? Because they all equal 38. What order do they go in? I'm not entirely sure of the first and the third because they could be switched. I'm kind of going based off of certain intuitions, but basically blue, green, and yellow, orange are those two ones on the side, because purple, red is right there in the center. That I know for a fact, because the gamma and zeta chakras and purple and red stand apart from the other two pairs. So again, that second 38, going back to 76, it's going back to that gamma frequency, which gamma and zeta together make magenta. Okay, so it's like a violet sort of color, and so that's why all of these things are focusing on the purple and the red, because those are the fusion breaths. So, and if you look at the words 456, this sums to 96. Again, that's my kin number, but also it's saying the 90-degree angle and the 6 parts of it, which 9 plus 6 is 15. Now, if you were to look at the sum of all 15 added, which I said before is 570, the words 570 equals 83, and 570 sums to 89. Well, why is this important? Well, 83 is the 23rd prime. 89 is the 24th prime. Going back to 23 and 24, which is the sums of the words heaven and earth. And if you were to add 23 and 24, you get 47, and kin 47 is blue galactic hand, right? So that's 8 hand. And what is 8 hand going back to? It's going back to, again, the duality of our hands, right? As well as it's going back to our wrists, because we have 8, carpals in each hand, wrist bones, okay? So again, that's why handcuffs look like the number 8. You know what I'm saying? It's the infinity of our hands. Poi, that's where that comes from. Yeah, I can't remember if it's carpals or metacarpals. It's been a minute since I looked at that, but the 8 wrist bones. Again, going back to the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's just a flick of the wrist. Yeah, so if we look at all 21, there's 9, and then your center 3, and then 9 other color pairs, right? So that gives us the 21 color pairs. The first 9, if you add them together, you get 292. Then you have your center 114, and then you have your second set of 9, which is 392. Okay, so if you add your auxiliary 292 plus 392, you get 684. And if you add the 114, you get 798. So 684 is 18 times 38, and 798 is 21 times 38. So what's interesting about the two numbers 684 and 798 is that, so 684, if you take 84 and divide it by 6, you get 14. And 798, if you take 98 and divide it by 7, you get 14. Again, going back to our holy 14. What's interesting here is that So the divisors of 798 are 16 in total, and the divisors for 684 are 18, going back to the 1618 or 1.618. But I only want to talk about the divisors of 684 here. So what's interesting about the divisors of 684 is that the sum of the proper divisors is 1136, and if you add 684 into that, you get 1820. Why is this important? Well, first off, the sum of the proper divisors, 1136, the kin equivalent is 96, that's me, and with the 684 added, so the sum of the divisors being 1820 or 1820, that's 7 exact Tzolk'ins. So 260 times 7, 1820. 1820. So not only is it saying 96, but 260. And the Lord hath blessed me with the Holy Ghost to give you this message. And my numbers are encoded into this very thing itself. Because remember, the name of Yellow Overtone Warrior Kin 96 sums to 76. And the words for Kin 76, Yellow Spectral Warrior, this sums 76. Furthermore, so I told you the sum of 684's proper divisors is 1136. Its 1136's kin equivalent is 96. And the words 684 sums to 96. Also, 604 score 4 is 104, and that is the difference between the 13 28-day moons, 364, and the 260 Tzolk'in. The difference being 104. We're not counting the day at a time, which would be 105, but, you know. Give me a second here. For those who have ears to hear, to let them hear. So if we look at the 7 brainwave names without omega added, this sums to 98. Gamma, beta, alpha, theta, delta, zeta sums to 98, which is 7 times 14, as we've established. This actually goes back to the Tao Te Ching cycles and stuff like that, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So these phrases also sum to 98. The 6 colors of the rainbow, secret 15 code, and X kin. We're not actually, I don't know why I mentioned that. We're not going to get into that. But it also is 15 secret kin on the Tzolk'in, and it corresponds to the same sort of system of 15. But I'll have to talk about that later. So the 6 colors of the rainbow sums 98. Zeta, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma sums 98, which is made up of 6 words and 28 letters. 6.28, you know. Rainbow in 42 degrees sums 98. The 42 generations sums 98. The white magnetic mirror sums 98. Which, by the way, kin 98 is 7 mirror. And so the words the white magnetic mirror are talking about 1 mirror, sums to 98. Spades, diamonds, hearts, clubs, 98. Analog, guide, antipode, and occult, 98. Receive ye the Holy Ghost, 98. 6 colors and 21 sets, sums to 98. So we're going to look at this verse, Matthew 5:16. Matthew 5:16 says, "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." So first off, I want to say my name is Matthew, by the way, and I'm kin 96, which has a tone of 5, seal 16. So my kin code is 5.16, and my name is Matthew. This is Matthew 5:16. This sums to, "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. This verse sums to 374, going back to the same things of Luke 21:28. Which, unlike Luke 21:28, there are not 22 words and 91 letters. There are 22 words and 90 letters. Just one letter short. Same number of words, one letter short of Luke 21:28. But again, the 90 and 91 are essentially encoding very similar mathematics, because the degrees of the 90-degree angle are 90 individual degrees, but if you count that 0, there are 91 altogether. 91 would be the accumulation of all of them. 91 is the number of days of a Hobbs season. So 91 times 4 seasons, you get 364, right? Now, of those 91 days, one of them stands apart, which is essentially 13 weeks, okay? Or 7 wave spells. That 91st would be the very center one, which is 46. And I'm not going to get into the number of 46 right now, but it's super important, trust me, and it has a lot to do with the things that I'm talking about right now. But so these two numbers are intrinsically connected. And both Luke 21:28 and Matthew 5:16 both have 22 words, but one has 91 letters, one has 90, showing us this distinction, showing us the connection between the two. And just because this one only has 90 letters and not 91, it's still a reference to the 90-degree angle. Now, what's interesting is that, again, so both of these verses sum to 374, which is encoding 114, but Matthew 5:16 has 126 vowels and 248 consonants. Okay? So 126 for the vowels, what am I saying? The vowels sum to 126, going back to the doubling of the cube. And there are the consonants sum to 248. This goes back to the beginning of our very last wave spell, which is yellow magnetic star kin 248, right? Which is essentially what we all are, yellow magnetic stars. So it's showing us this connection between the fully ripened human of the Tzolk'in, the very last wave spell, which is the very conclusion of the whole Tzolk'in. But it's also encoding 126, going back to the doubling of the cube. One interesting thing to note is that in 15 days, I'm going to be turning 30, and I'll be entering my white solar world bridger year. And that's kin 126. So, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. There's a lot that I could talk about, but again, remember the words 456 sums to 90. There are 90 letters in this verse. So, all of these words sum to 38, by the way. Hexahedron, rainbow pixel, star dots, energy dot, the rainbow, the colors or the color, colors index, rainbow index, gamma light, mind light, black light, a frequency, inspiring, meditation, solar cubes, 7 cube, Triforce. The sum of 16 plus 22 is 38. Telepathy, Marty Leeds, Donald Marshall. Magnet cube, Matrix cube, Sunbirth, Earthwind, Revelation. I'm not going to go into the detail of 16 and 22 and why that sums to 38, but the word revel which is what the word revelation is made of, right? Revel means to exclaim loudly and happily, like, just being joyful and being vocal about it. Like, yes, like, awesome, yes, I'm feigning these emotions, but, like, I just not feel like being goofy right now. Revel sums to 22. So if revelation sums 38, the word revel sums to 22, basically showing us this distinction. Because when you have a revelation, you're like, yes, it's like a revelation from like an insight from the divine, and you revel in that. And 16 and 22, going back to the warrior's cube journey, the 16-day cycle in each moon, it goes back to 7 and 22 in pi, and the warrior and Christ and the evolution of the human soul by going into the cube and back out of the cube. Every 28 days we do it for 16 days. So going back to what I was saying about rainbow pixels, star dots, energy dot, all that, if you were to squint your eyes at sunlight or any form of light, you'll eventually see these like little circles with these dots inside. And these are what make up our visual field, right? That's what our eyes pick up on as the little particles that make up light. And I call them rainbow pixels because it's like a computer pixel, but they're circular. These are the star dots, energy dot, etc. Don't believe me, just squint at sunlight when it's like when you're either looking up at the sky or like at something sunlight shining on, and if you squint your eyes at the right point, you'll see them like just coming off of like everything. They're just like moving all over the place. And if you've ever tripped psychedelics, not only can you see these things very easily, but you can see the hexagonal shapes as well of the rainbow. So I want to bring up Revelation 1:20. It says, "The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches." So again, all of these 7s, it's all going back to the same thing. It's going back to the cube. It's going back to Septenary Gematria, the rainbow, our chakras, brain waves, the laws of time. It's all going back to 7, right? So the mystery of the 7 stars, which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks, the 7 stars are the angles of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. The word 7 is mentioned 6 times. Why? Because 6 times 7 goes back to 42. And if you were to look at Revelation 1:20, like the numbers 120 backwards, you get 021, 021, which is half of 42. And it's Revelation 120. Revelation 120. 120 is the sum of an interior angle, one angle in a hexagon, as well as, going back to what I was saying about 120 earlier with 2 interior angles of a triangle, right? Revelation 120. When they say 7 angels, they're talking about 7 angles, right? 7 candlesticks, going back to the menorah. So the word revelation sums 38. And we have chapter 1, verse 20. Well, let's add each of these numbers up. Revelation sums 38, so you have 38. And then you have 1, which is 39. And then you add 20, 59. Going back to Jesus Christ and his name summing 59. 59 being the 17th prime, etc. And 17 being the 7th prime. And I just realized this as well. Revelation sums 38. The word 1 sums 8. So 8 plus 38, that's 46. And the word 20 sums 26, right? So 46 plus 26, 72. And 72 is the sum of Lord Jesus Christ. As well as the fact that 72 is connected to 720. It's a fractal of, it's a perfect decimal fractal of, or decimated fractal of 720. And 720 being the sum of all the interior angles of a hexagon. One thing you'll note is that when you're dealing with the kin, all 260 kin can be broken down into 3 numbers. That's why for numbers below 100, I always add that 0, because mirrors are present with these kin. So when you see kin 21, its mirror is not 12, it's 120. So just keep that in mind. And 120 as its kin mirror would be 21, or 120 would be 021. So 120 plus 21, going back to the 141, which is our 6 chakras, remember? So the sum of this verse for Revelation 120 sums to 818, which is kin equivalent is 38. And the word revelation sums 38. And 818 is a mirror. And since the 18th solar seal is the white mirror, it's a mirrory mirror, 818. Let's look at John 1:14. So again, 1:14. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. And his Word was made flesh. It's talking about the DNA codes that are metaphysical, that they exist before creation, and they're codes of intelligence that give shape and form, and they are the blueprints of all things, all physical life, right? That is the Word being made flesh. So it's John 1:14 first off, so it's coding the 114. But there are 30 words and 113 letters in this verse. 30 words, 113 letters. 113 is the 30th prime, and therefore the sum of its divisors is 114, which this is John 1:14. And this verse sums to 462, and 462's kin equivalent is 200, or you can think of 462 as 46 and 2, which I'm not going to get into this right now, but we'll talk about it later in another video. But its kin equivalent is 202, and 202, or kin 202, is 7 wind, which is the number of times the word wind is mentioned in the entire HBKJV. Let me double check the exact details of this real quick. Okay, so it's basically the sum of every time the word wind comes, whether if it's part of another word like window or windy, etc. The word wind shows up, even if it's part of another word, 202 times in the entire King James Version. The word wind is mentioned 38 times in the New Testament and 164 times in the Old Testament. 164, let me find where I had 164 at. I had that brought up earlier. No, I can't remember where I brought up 164, but it's mentioned 38 times in the New Testament. Again, whether or not if it's its actual word or part of another word. but altogether is 202, which is white resonant wind, or seven wind, right? And that is the word, right? God's word, seven wind, seven words, seven spirit, seven breath. And John 1:14 sums 462, which goes back to the 46 and 2 and, of the chromosomes, and 202 going back to seven wind. Another interesting thing that I had just recently realized is that the third kin 3, is blue electric night, and this phrase, blue electric night, its name sums 76, which the exact angle of the capstone of the Great Pyramid is 76.3. And again, 3 also being related to the triangle. So kin 3 sums 76, and together you get the 76.3. For the exact phrase of the word wind in the New Testament, it shows up 26 times. Well, why? Because the wind is the spirit, which is the breath, which is the word, and we have 26 letters of in the English alphabet. And I think this will be the last one that I mention, because I'll probably just talk about the other ones later on. Yeah, we'll talk about the other ones later on, just because I think I'm getting to the end of... There's a couple more things that I want to mention, though. So, remember how I mentioned that 411 is the mirror of 114? Well, the verse Micah 7:20. Okay, Micah 7:20. Thou wilt perform the truth to Jacob, and the mercy to Abraham, which thou hast sworn unto our fathers from the days of old. This sums to 411, this verse. So already it's encoding the 114 for the 411, going back to information, etc. But this is Micah 7:20. Okay? Micah 7:20. Remember, 720 is the sum of the interior angles of a hexagon. As well as the fact that Micah is the 33rd book in the entire Bible. So you have 33 on each hand. I'm not going to get into explaining this, but if you want to find out, go watch my older videos. You have 33 on each hand. So together you have 66, which that's how many books are in the Bible, right? The King James Version. Micah is the 33rd book, so exactly one half, right? The halfway point. Well, 33 and 34 would be the two halfway points, because we're dealing with an even number here. But half of 66 is 33, and that's Micah. So, again, 720. This is Micah 7:20. 20 plus 7 is 27. That's how many bones we have in each hand. 720 backwards is 027, 027. And that's also encoding 3 digit places. So even though 0 is unnecessary to put for that, we still use it because it's something you learn from coding with the Tzolk'in. So if you were to look up the septonary values... Oh, by the way, so not only is 720 the sum of the interior angles of a hexagon, goes back to our cube and our holy cube and chakra systems and rainbow and colors and all that and brainwaves, but 720, those are our 2 center letters of septonary. So we have 2 letters that correspond to 7, and that is the 7th letter and the 20th letter, G and T. The 7th letter and the 20th letter. The words Micah chapter 7 verse 20 sums to 120. Again, going back to our 120, right? Which is one angle of a hexagon. 720 being all 6, but Micah chapter 7 verse 20 sums to 120, making that clear distinction. Micah chapter 7 and verse 20 would be 126, going back to our doubling of the cube. The words book of Micah sums 33. The words book of Micah sum 33, and Micah is the 33rd book. The words book of Micah chapter 7 verse 20 sums to 137. 137 is not only encoding 13:7, but it's also encoding the 33rd prime. 137 is the 33rd prime. So Book of Micah sums 33. It is the 33rd book. Book of Micah chapter 7 verse 20 sums 137, and that is the 33rd prime. And the words book 33 of 66 sums 114, which Micah 7:20, thou wilt perform the truth to Jacob and the mercy to Abraham, which thou hast sworn unto our fathers from the days of old, sums to 411. And the mirror of 411 is 114, and the words book 33 of 66 sums 114. There's only a couple of more things that I want to mention before I go. Which, by the way, of Micah 7:20, there are 98 letters, going back to our 7 times 14. And there are 24 words. The 24th prime is 89. So the 24 words, 98 letters, the 24th prime is 89. 89, 98, another mirror. Which, remember, 98 is 7 mirror. And another interesting thing is that our 7th prime is 17. Add 17 to what number prime it is, you get 24. So just to drive this home, remember when I said 114 sums 76? And how my kin name, Yellow Overtone Warrior, sums 76, as well as kin 76, Yellow Spectral Warrior, sums 76? Well, the words 338 sums 96. So, again, bless Lord God for bestowing me with the Holy Ghost so that I may give you this message, to show the perfect symmetrical design behind our universe. The words 180 degrees sums to 114. One moment. So, yeah, the very last thing that I'll mention is this. So, remember when I said that these 338s sum to 114, therefore 38 times 3 is 114? Well, the words in Septenary Gematria, 38 times 3 sums to 114.